Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Portfolio risk. Portfolio risk simply means we have to calculate the risk of the portfolio and we need to measure the risk of the portfolio. And then we can compare the risk of the portfolio with the expected return of the portfolio. Then you can decide whether it is a good portfolio or not. What do you mean by good portfolio? Good portfolio is the portfolio which expected return is more and expected risk is less. As much as it has less risk, that is better for the purpose of investment, right? There are several techniques in order to calculate risk of the portfolio, as I have mentioned in the previous videos. There are several, but I have just pointed out three of them, which we can discuss it. The first one, as you can see here, is basically covariance, right? The first technique. The second technique that they will use is called coefficient of correlation. That is another technique. And the last one, which we will discuss, is portfolio variance, right? So this technique will be used in order to measure the risk of the portfolio. So the first one is covariance. What is covariance? Covariance is also one of simple, you can say covariance is one of the technique in order to measure the risk of the portfolio and show the behavior of the securities. It show what? Show just the behavior of the securities or show the nature of the securities. What do you mean by this one? I will explain this one after seeing the formula for calculating the covariance for two or more than two securities. In this example, two securities. Let us say, for example, you have two securities. You have security X and you have security Y. How to calculate the covariance for this one? The covariance for X and Y is equal to return of X minus expected return of X multiplied to return of Y minus expected return of Y divided by number of periods. What do you mean by number of periods? We'll explain with example. Whatever is the result of this one, right, after the calculation. If the result of this one is positive, right, so see, we can say, if the result of this one is positive, result is what? Positive. Or the result is negative. Result can be either positive or it can be negative. If the result is positive, it means that the two security which you have combined in your portfolio, they have the same feature. They have what? They have the same feature, or we can say behavior. What do you mean by same features or same behavior? Same features means that if you combine these two security in your portfolio, so they will go in the same direction. They will go in what? They will go in the same direction. If they suffer profit, both at the same time will make profit. If they suffer loss, so both at the same time make loss. So in this case, if both have the same feature, risk of this portfolio will increase. What will increase? Risk will increase. Why risk will increase? Because this portfolio acts like a single security. Although you have combined two securities, but these two securities have the same feature. If they have the same feature, it means both are like the same, like one investment or like one security. Why? Because both of them go in the same way. If go on the positive side, both will go for the positive. If go for the negative, so both go for the negative. So it means either you suffer a huge amount of loss or you make a good amount of profit. So that is why risk of this one is small. But on the other side, if the result of this covariance is negative, it means the two security which you have combined is basically opposite of each other. It is what? It is just opposite of each other. Opposite of each other means, so they're acting, we can say, like they are going in the opposite direction. If one go for the, we can say, positive side, definitely the next may go for the negative. Simply, we can say both will not go in the same direction. So their direction is different. If their direction is different, definitely in this case, risk of the security is less. Why risk of the security? Risk of the portfolio is less. So why risk of the portfolio is less? Because the two security which you have combined will not go in the same way. If one suffer, the other may not suffer. If one make profit, so the other may not make. So that is why both will not go in the same way. So that is why it acts like a portfolio. right? So the previous one, which I've said, in this example, it is not like a portfolio. Why? Because they are the same. But in the next case, if the result is negative, the two or the more than two securities which you have combined, they do not have the same feature. So that is why your risk will be less in this one. So simply we can say now, what is covariance? Covariance is one of the technique which is used to measure the profitability, which is used to measure the risk of the project or the risk of the investments or the risk of the portfolio. And we can calculate it through this formula. Let us say, for example, we have two securities, security X and security Y. So how we can calculate covariance of X and Y? So this is equal to return of X minus expected return of X. Return of Y minus expected return of Y. And this is divided by N. N means number of periods. So whatever the result, if it is positive, so this two security has the same feature. So please do not combine it, right? So the next point, if the result is positive, so please do not combine these two security as a portfolio. If the result is negative, so please combine these two security as a portfolio. So this was the first technique. Let us go for the second technique as well. The second technique is this one, coefficient of correlation. Coefficient of correlation is another measure designed to indicate the similarity or the dissimilarity in the behavior of two variables. We define the coefficient of correlation of X and Y security as coefficient of correlation between X and Y is equal to covariance between X and Y divided by a standard deviation of X and a standard deviation of Y, right? See, in this case, what is coefficient of correlation? Coefficient of correlation is another technique, again, which measures the behavior of the two securities. But coefficient of correlation measure the behavior of two security much exact as compared to covariance. It means the result of this one is much more exact as compared to covariance. Whatever is the result of correlation can be between -1 and +1. And of course, sometimes it can be 0 as well. Now, result of coefficient of correlation cannot be more than +1, as well as, of course, it cannot be less than, of course, -1. Why this is so? Because the coefficient of correlation just move in this interval. So this is the interval for coefficient of correlation, as we have studied in the statistics as well. Now, let me tell you one more point. If the result is +1, result is what? If the result is +1, if the result is +1, this is called perfect positive correlation. Perfect positive correlation. If the result is negative, on that case, it is called perfect negative correlation, right? If the result is positive, so it means this one itself. If the result is +1, not only positive, if the result is +1, it is called perfect positive correlation. Perfect positive correlation means the two securities which you have combined, they are 100% with the same behavior. 100% they are in the same behavior, right? So definitely, if you invest in these securities, so risk is much more. Risk is what? Risk is much more. Why risk is much more? Because the two securities which you have combined, 100% their behavior is the same. But if you remember in the previous case, and if the result of covariance is positive, we just said they have the same behavior. So we could not say, for example, 100 they have the same feature, or for example 40% their behavior is the same, or 60% it is the same. But if it is in the case of coefficient of correlation, if the result is +1, it means 100% they have the same feature. 100% they have the same feature. If the result is -1, this is called perfect negative correlation. In this case, risk of the security is less. What do I mean by this one? If the result is -1, this is called perfect negative correlation. It means that the two securities which you have combined in the portfolio, 100% they do not have the same feature. 100% their features are the same, or their behavior is the same. 100% their behaviors are not, we can say, same, or their behavior is against each other, right? 100% they are the same, 100% they are not the same. They are opposite of each other. And of course, they have the same feature. If the coefficient of correlation is 0, it means there is no relation between the two securities, right? There is no relation. You cannot create a relationship between these two, right? Now, the next one, result might be, for example, less than 1, right? It can be, for example, 0.9, 0.8, 0. So as much as it go toward positive 1, so their similarity increase. As much as it go toward negative 1, their correlation decrease, right? So it means they are opposite of each other. As much as it go toward positive 1, so risk of the security is more. As much as it go toward negative 1, so there is less risk. Even if it is negative 1, so people say that these two security, we can say, do not have risk at all. If it is positive 1, it means 100% there's a risk, right? So once again, what is coefficient of correlation? And then a technique in order to measure the risk of the securities, or in order to check the behavior of the securities. If it is positive 1, do not invest or do not make this portfolio. If it is negative 1, definitely make this two portfolio. Right? If it is 0, then on this side, you can decide. If it is, for example, 0.8, these two securities, they have the same features, and their features are 80% the same. If it is 0.5, 50% the same. If it is negative, it means so they are opposite of each other, so this side is good. So if it is on negative side, please make an investment in the portfolio. Please watch the next video to see the examples.